last time we were together, we were talking about cognitive dissonance, and we said that a lot of times it's where you have an unpleasant state in your body because you're holding conflicting beliefs. They're inconsistent with how you feel. And as I said, it could be somebody saying, I shouldn't be smoking because I know it's unhealthy, but I smoke because I like to. And so therefore they kind of have to change their mentality in order to get the cognitive dissonance to go away. Leon Fessinger in the 1950s did a study about this type of experiment, and he asked a whole bunch of people to complete a really dull task, literally turning wooden pegs on a board. Yeah, it sounds horrible. When they were done, they were told to tell the next participants, who were Confederates, that the experiment was fun. Half the participants were paid $1 to lie, and the other half were paid $20 to lie. And then in the final part, participants were asked to rate how much they enjoyed the actual original task, and on this part they could be honest. Those who were paid $20 said that they found the task to be boring. Those who were paid $1 said the task was fun. So what in the world does this prove? It pretty much proves that those who are paid $1 reduce their cognitive dissonance by lying about the experiment and talking themselves into believing that talking themselves into that experiment being fun. And it helps solve their cognitive dissonance. And those who were paid a lot of money didn't feel like lying because, again, that created more cognitive dissonance in their mind. So when they were kind of asked to rate how much fun it was, $20 wasn't worth it to them. So they wanted to keep their conscience clean. So that's the idea of cognitive dissonance. Again, I would really know that drinking pot, smoking, that type of stuff, that's probably going to be how the test would phrase it in dealing with cognitive dissonance. Justification of effort, the idea that if something involves a higher cost in terms of money or pain or effort, that we tend to value it more. Think of it like this. If you got a set of AirPods for Christmas and you lost them, yeah, it can be frustrating and disappointing, but it'd be different if you had saved up for 3 or 4 months to get those and then you lost them. Because at that point in time, you have justification of effort telling you that it cost you more in effort and money and pain, so you value it more. This is why if you had to buy your new basketball shoes and you lost it, you'd freak out because it's your money. Or if it's your parents, it's not as big of a deal to you. And the reason why we have hazing rituals can help explain this a little bit is hazing rituals happen in fraternities and on sports teams. And the idea is that these guys get hazed, guys or girls get hazed, teased, berated, but they still do it because they want to be a part of an exclusive club. And so that's the idea of justification of effort. Attitude change results because we are motivated to reduce the tension. That's how your attitude changes. So if all of a sudden you're at leadership camp, as I used in the previous video, and you didn't really like it, but all your friends are liking it, then all of a sudden your attitude change, or you're motivated to reduce that tension. And cognitive dissonance occurs only within the individual. I'd highlight that. Only within the individual and not between two individuals. You cannot have cognitive dissonance with another person. Now, you can have cognitive dissonance in deciding you want to hang out with other people, but the cognitive dissonance only happens within you. So what I meant by that was if you're dating someone that you know you shouldn't, but you really like to, that can create cognitive dissonance. But that has nothing to do with what they're doing necessarily. It's all within you. Letter E, attribution theory and biases. This is developed as a way to understand the causal factors of our and others' behavior. So now we're talking about others. So attribution is others, attitude is us. Fritz Heider, a great German name, the attributions, he said this, the attributions we generate are either dispositional or situational. Dispositional or internal means this. Our personality, our intelligence, our maturity. Situational, external, these are factors outside the person, such as luck and social etiquette. Now, you guys may be like, I still don't understand what we're talking about. Let me give you an example. If a salesperson pays you a compliment, you could look at it as they appreciate your style, which is dispositional. It's something about you. It's something about your personality. They think you're smart. They think that you're intelligent. They think that you're mature. They think that you are a beautiful person or whatever. However, or you can look at it like they are trying to make a sale, like it's a situation. So you go to a used car lot, and the dealership guy comes up to you and says, you look like a person who knows their cars. Well, all of a sudden you're like, well, he's dealing with my internal or my dispositional attribution here. But If he walks up to you and says, I think you look like a person who knows your car, you might say, well, the only reason he's talking nice to me is because he wants to make a sale. So that's the difference between dispositional and situational. The fundamental attribution error, this is your tendency to overestimate the impact of personal causes and not to consider the situation for the cause of behavior. So this is used to explain other people's behavior. So this is where you kind of make an attribution error to them. So let me give you an example. The example I gave you, I think, is a good one. You're sitting at a restaurant, a waiter is slow, and you say to your friends and your family they are lazy. But maybe she recently found out someone in their family has cancer, or let's say this during this pandemic, all of a sudden she finds out that her work's closing tomorrow, and they haven't really announced it to the general public. But you're upset that everything's going slow. Well, she's not really lazy. It's actually due to situations, and it's due to a personal cause, and you don't consider the situation that she's in as the result of the cause for her behavior. She could be the world's best waitress, but due to the situations, she's struggling today. So that's why we call it a fundamental attribution error, the tendency to overestimate the impact of personal causes and not consider the situation. The actor-observer bias, this is the tendency to explain the behavior of others to personal causes and attribute our own behavior to situational. So basically what we're saying here is this: it does involve two individuals, you and who you assigned the attribution to. So Billy is doing a speech and he's stuttering all over the place. So you thought he was a bad speaker. You are blaming him on personal causes. However, when you get up there and you speak, you stutter during yours, and it's because you heard noise and you were distracted, so you blame the situation. So again, the actor-observer bias is you are blaming others for personal causes and explaining their behavior that way and attributing your own behavior to the situation, not to your personal causes. It's not truly a defense mechanism, but can be similar to that. Self-serving bias is the tendency to attribute your own successes to dispositional factors and our failures to situational. This involves only your behavior and choosing attributions that make you look good. So you believe you got an A in math because you are smart, but you got a C in psych because the teacher is an idiot. That is kind of the idea of self-serving bias. You're blaming the situation of you getting a C. Like again, I'm scrolling back up here. This is why dispositional and situational are important to know what they are. But this is why you believe you got an A. Or, I would have been a better basketball player had I had a better coach. But I'm a really good soccer player because I practice soccer all the time. That's the idea of self-serving bias. Self-effacing bias. This is the tendency to attribute our failures to dispositional factors and our successes. So a little bit of the opposite here. This involves only your behavior in choosing attributions that make the group look good and you look modest. These are character qualities that like a team captain would possess. Your team loses a game and you take responsibility, and then you win and you praise the efforts of your team. You see this a lot of times in professional athletics where a guy scores 35 points in a game. And, people are like, oh, how did you do it? He's like, well, my teammates helped me out. They did this, they did that. And that is the self-effacing bias. He is making other people look good rather than making himself look good. And he's saying that our failure is to dispositional and our success is to situational. And so kind of taking the blame on himself. The false consensus effect, this is the tendency for an individual to overestimate how many others act and think the way they do. This involves your perceptions about how others think and behave. So, for example, you do well in your exam, and therefore you show the false consensus effect by assuming everyone else is successful as well. And what we're saying is that when you guys get done, sometimes with one of my tests, a lot of times you guys are like, man, that was easy. I did great on this. And then you're really shocked when other people didn't do well. That's the false consensus effect. You really believe that everybody believes or did the same thing that you did. Just world phenomenon or blame the victim. The idea is that people get what they deserve. That's the idea of that attribution. A person speeds past you on the freeway when it's icy, and you see them get in a wreck. You drive by, rarely do you go, oh, you know what, I feel bad for them. No, you're pretty much saying, hey, they deserved everything that they got. Once in a while, this can even be a really bad scenario where people would say that, a woman who gets kidnapped. Maybe she shouldn't have dressed a certain way. They could say that just world phenomenon or blame the victim. And again, all of these can lead to really bad conclusions. Self-handicapping, this is creating a convenient situational explanation for potential failures before they happen. So what you're doing is you're handicapping yourself before something actually even takes place. You're about to take a test, and you know you're going to fail it, so you stay up all night and watch movies so that you actually have an excuse. And the excuse isn't that you didn't, that you weren't really prepared. The excuse is that you stayed up all night. And you handicap yourself by coming up with some brand new weird thing to make you a little bit less responsible for whatever the situation may deem. So again, you know you're going to fail a test, so you stay up all night and watch movies, so you have an excuse. I'm sure none of you guys have self-handicapped. Social influence. This is the study of how individuals' thoughts and actions shape our own beliefs, feelings, and behaviors. And we said social norms is the one that we've kind of spent a lot of time on before. And the conditioned social rules that provide information on how we believe. So this is kind of like how society views certain things, certain social rules that we have to follow. Social norms is what they would call it. And we would follow those. Again, you go to a funeral home, you act a certain way. You go to a wedding, you act a certain way. You go to a graduation, you act a certain way. And so they're social norms, and that's why we would say the social influence. So I'm going to stop here because the next section on social roles with this Zimbardo prison study has a lot of explanation to it. So we're going to stop there. As before, if you guys have any questions, which I hope this is really working for you, please let me know. And you can send those to me, you can email them to me, whatever. Hopefully we get back together and I can kind of explain some of this stuff a little bit better. But we will see. All right? Enjoy your afternoon.